Just don't panic, don't freak out. Just know that you need to diversify and maybe start looking at all the ways you could make money, not just the ways you were thinking you were going to make money in real estate, to ensure that that kind of money that you want to make will continue to be made. Our next subject, we're going to talk about preparing for the changing market. And I like to say diversify or die. All right. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is adapt or die. And here's what the experts are saying. With what's going to be going on with this neutral, hope, maybe possibly a buyer's market in the next 1 to 2 years, is that 20% or more of the agents will be gone next year. They won't be able to survive. They won't be able to. First of all, it was already tough for them to get in and they're new and trying to do transactions, let alone going through what's going on in the industry now with uncertainty and higher interest rates and inflation, and still hard to get homes, even though what I'm finding out is more and more homes now are starting to come on the market. Because here's what happens. The people who got it last year or the year before already sold their home. The people now realize we're already beyond that curve and we're starting to come down. We're not like, we don't know where it's going to go, if it's going to curve and then kind of flatten out. But the point is, it's now made the turn. So people are like, panic. And now a bunch of people are starting to put stuff on the market. I have 3 or 4 more listings that are coming up in the next 30 days that just came out of the blue. And I guarantee, without me calling them and saying, hurry, 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 you better do something, they just called me because they're hearing the news, they're getting the vibe, they know what's going on. And so if you're not engaged in figuring out ways on how to network with the agents, talk with builders, talk with lenders and what's going on, different programs that they can offer and things that they can do. So get educated, get creative on what they are doing so that you can duplicate that and be a part of that process. Because one of the big things is that when I say diversify or die, it really comes down to the fact that you got to do things different than you've always done. And if it's not that great right now, it's not going to get better by just hanging out. You got to be proactive. You got to be willing to go in there and do, some brainstorm. Maybe there's some masterminds or meetup events available or different things like that. So that's one of the big things that I would say is stay with, hang with the strong people, run with the runners, and run with the pack. Because here's the reality of our industry, that 90% of the transactions, both on the buying and the selling side, are done by 10% of the agents out there in any particular market. I mean, it's always that way. It's not the 80-20 rule like you hear about. It is the 90-10 rule. And you want to be a part of that 10% for sure. Because if you're not, you're going to be on the fringes, only making just okay money, part-time money, and you'll never be serious. You'll just be kind of curious about if this could ever be a full-time career. All right, next thing. Work harder and smarter. Obviously you always want to work smarter, not harder, but the fact of the matter is you got to do both now. Just working smart isn't going to do it. You got to be working tenaciously, putting in the hours, creatively thinking about other things you can do via social media. Maybe this is the time where you're going to start doing some more videos that you've never done because you were like scared of doing it. Well, this is a way where either you have to get creative and figure out ways, whether it's TikTok or social media or different things that you're going to do online through Google or whatever, to attract potential sellers and buyers to you as a realtor. But the fact of the matter is that either you're going to do that through sweat equity and creativity, or you're going to pay for the marketing to have someone else do it, or you're going to pay for leads, or you're going to advertise or whatever. So there is no free lunch. You're either going to put it in through hard work and creativity and being smarter about how you're going to do it, or you're just going to throw money at it, and you still got to be smart. Otherwise, if you're dumb and you throw dumb money at dumb things, you're going to lose big time. I'm just kind of trying to call it as it is. All right. So be careful with how you're spending the money. You may need to invest money to make money. That's true. You may need to invest money to learn and get educated on how to do some of these things through social media marketing to start building up your audience, which will eventually be your client base. And then of course, always asking for referrals. So that's the thing I was mentioning earlier, is that if you haven't been doing that, you might want to start doing that. So kind of add that to the list. That should have been an ABC 1, 2, 3 thing. But then the whole idea of learning new things, like I said, the video or the TikTok stuff. All right, next, diversify ways that you can make money related to real estate. Now that's the other thing. To stay in the industry and stay active means that there's things that you can do different than your typical buying and selling in residential real estate. Because why do I say that? 80% of the people in real estate are involved in residential buying and selling, or buying and listing properties for sale. That's great, but there's more than that out there that you can participate in and ways to make money. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. All right, last, build up your rev share to add to your bottom line. And that's the big thing we're going to talk about as well, because the reason I'm so excited about EXP is for a number of things. But let's just focus on the one part that comes to royalty residual passive income. All kind of synonymous, but really this is what we would call passive income. You do the work actively so that at some point passively you won't have to work, but you continue to get paid an override for attracting people to this incredible company, right? To this business model. And so what that means is that whether you're looking to make an extra $30,000 a year in passive income, or 100,000 or 100,000 a month, all those numbers are possible. Why? Because other people have already done it. So you don't have to feel like you're trying to figure this out and reinventing the wheel. It works if you work it. All right, next slide. Let's talk about the ways to diversify. Diversify the ways that you can make money related to real estate. Okay, so first thing is working with investors. Now, this is kind of something I've talked a lot, and there's some old trainings that I'm going to kind of bring back here, because I feel like there's a lot of things that we can bring back in and let people know it still works. These are still tried and true methods on how I started and when I started in real estate. So working with investors, trying to network, again, whether you're going to an investors association type meetings in your area. We happen to have the MINRIA, Minnesota Real Estate Investors Association. There's other meetup groups where you can meet investors to help them find properties. And why is that important? Because if you help them find it and buy a property, you can get paid. If they're going to flip it, you can also get paid when you sell it. There's also multiple transactions that we've trained on that you can make during one if you're working with an investor, excuse me. And also another one that we've started doing is project management. And the reason is because so many of the sellers don't have the time, but we know to get the biggest bang for the buck out of their house by doing some work and making some improvements, hiring a good contractor to paint, hiring a good contractor to do some handyman stuff, finding a good person to do, landscaping and maybe even just clean out work, to help them kind of get organized on what they're going to keep, what they're going to recycle, what they're going to throw, what they're going to donate, what have you. So there's a lot of different vendors, a lot of different people that we have that you need to build a team of people that you can recommend with confidence that will follow through, will do a good job at a good price. And so to put that all together, kind of like a general contractor has a lot of subcontractors when building a house, a project manager does the same thing. It's just a little bit, it's not licensed. It's not that not all of them are, true subcontractors like plumbers and electricians. Some of them might be organizational people, might be junk people, might be the lawn care people, might be a painter. So all those things are important. If they don't have the ability to do that, you may need to step in and get paid for it. And I'm talking $1,000 to $3,000 or more, in addition to your listing commissions that you can get paid on providing project management to your clients. Now, think about it in this way too, that that $3,000, let's just say, that they're paying for you, and the call it another $15,000 in work that's being done is $18,000. But if they're going to get another $40,000 for their house because all that work was done, that's a great return on investment, right? I always tell people, if you're going to put in 5,000, you need to at least make 7,500 to 10,000, or don't do it, right? So that's another kind of catch-all, that whole other training, like, should we do the work or shouldn't we? Maybe that's a training subject if someone wants to type that into the text chat for me. Should we do the work or shouldn't we? That could be an entire training in and of itself. All right, next, learn how to source properties through wholesaling. Now, that was another thing that Jason and I, Jason P. Jordan, the president and CEO of the Legends International team, he and I started in this industry together. I was already in, and then we always wanted to be in business together in real estate. And then he kind of started doing his research and training. And thank you so much, boys. Appreciate it. Then what happened is that we were like, hey, if we can source these properties, then we'll be able to make money on the front end. We'll be able to make money on the back end, and it worked great. And so Cash Homes Minnesota was launched. My gosh, it's been 4 years now. I don't know. I have to ask Jason. It's been a while, and hundreds of homes. Good things are happening. We're still doing that, and we're going to be doing more of that. Why? Because with this changing market, as things are happening where there's going to be some more short sales, there's going to be foreclosures, there's going to be pre-foreclosure situations that have to be solved and figured out. This will be an opportunity for us to train, teach, and take advantage and capitalize on the wholesaling end of the business. So that's something we could talk more about. Again, that would be another follow-up training. I already have some of that down, so we'll do that more in the future as that comes up. And then we've also talked about, commercial real estate, adding on commercial real estate to the repertoire of things that you're due. Now, initially, you may not be knowledgeable enough to do it all on your own, but at some point you're going to want to look at adding that on, because you don't want to miss an opportunity. Now, some people that are not real business minded, they're not real confident, they're still super, super new, then it might be too much for you, but that might be something that would be the growing over time, that you want to continue to diversify and start getting some education, getting some training, so that eventually you can do more with commercial real estate. But what you can do is you can, of course, always get referrals and refer deals to get paid. So it could be a commercial deal. It could be a business brokerage deal where they're just selling the business. Like, I had a client who decided to keep their I'm sorry, I got distracted. Decided to keep their restaurant rather than selling it, for different reasons that I went through with them. And this was me being super open and honest with them. And they decided, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and keep it. And I'm like, you know what, that's not a bad idea. Let's get it running for at least full year, so we can see all the growth of happening over your first year. And then it will be much more marketable after you've had it for a year. But that was not involved real estate. That was just their business that they were selling. It had nothing to do with the real estate, because they're leasing their space. Now, there might be some renegotiations in the lease and different things like that, but for the most part, it's not a commissionable event. So could be business brokerage, could be commercial real estate, it could be referring other clients to other areas around the nation outside of your farm area or your market, if you will. It could be referring people internationally, which we'll talk about more in the future with deals that are coming up, especially with the Legends International team and our group of like-minded leaders all around the world, and the other program that we put together, which is the global marketing, the GMA, the global marketing agent program. We'll give you all of the training. We'll give you paperwork to ensure that you're going to get paid and protected, both you and your clients, whether you're on the buying or on the selling side of properties all around the world. So if you know people who are looking to, for instance, we have a golden visa programs in Spain and Portugal and other countries where they can literally get a passport, to be a part of the European Union and be able to travel throughout Europe with an actual passport rather than like a visitor's visa. which is pretty cool. So that gives them some possibilities in the future when things get rocky and funny. Just nice to know you can be moving around the world with a passport if you ever need to get out of Dodge, if you will. Uh, and then there's the other opportunity through Success Lending. Some of you may not know, but Success Lending, who is powered by EXP Realty and partnered with EXP Realty, and they have put together this program that allows us to refer mortgage officers. And when those mortgage officers come on, you would get a $5,000 portion of the 10 for the first 90 days that they're on. Then I think after 6 months, then another $5,000 is paid to you. And there's some other like overrides through different levels and things that you could earn money on as well, as they refer people and grow their team in all of, I think we're now in pretty much all the 50 states. If not, we're doing pretty great as our expansion. Actually, we're probably not in all 50 yet, but we're definitely growing. So people who have found that there's ways to make money than just buying and selling. That's what I want to really share on this particular page, is the fact that we have all these different programs that people can participate in. And there's even others that I won't take the time to get into now, but there's going to be other marketing opportunities for different tools and services and technologies that will give you an opportunity to get paid upfront money and possibly residual money as well, which is pretty cool. EXP is adding other ways, what we would call RevShare Plus, to be able to have other services, whether it's home security, home warranty programs, title services, and other things that if those people are part of the network, and that could just enhance your revenue share. So that's another way that we can, as a company, are continuing to diversify and stay ahead of the curve for ways to put more money in our pockets as agents. All right. So with that, let me do this. Let me stop for a moment and answer some questions before we get to the end. I just want to do some questions now, and then maybe go back and go through some of these deeper. And the whole idea of today's training was just, don't panic, don't freak out. Just know that you need to diversify and maybe start looking at all the ways you could make money, not just the ways you were thinking you were going to make money in real estate, to ensure that that kind of money that you want to make will continue to be made. Now, here's the other thing. For a lot of people, it's still really a good market. But the idea is that if you start now and position yourself, when things start getting worse, before they get better, you're going to want to make sure that you're already looking at all the ways to diversify. Looking at all the ways to, what I would say, create multiple revenue streams, so that your eggs are all in one real estate basket, specifically focused on buying. Like, I feel bad for the people who just got their license, joined a team with a bigger brokerage. They got to give them 50% of their commission for sure, in some cases more. And they're trained to go out there and try and get buyers to buy. Well, first time home buyers to buy, and they have no network, they don't have any experience, and they're trying to, find some, clients, some of which they might refer to them, but it'd be really tough. Same thing is that if someone is going from the buying side, trying to figure out how to get listings done, it's for the newer person, this is why we know we're going to lose a few good people if they don't have the training, if they're not looking forward and what else they can do. We're gonna lose a few good agents, and some that maybe shouldn't have been in the first place, which I don't know. I guess that's good, but it is what it is. And so we don't want you to be one of those casualties. We don't want you, who's invested in and connected with the Legends International team, to have that come to haunt you, because you're here to learn, you're here to grow, you're here to diversify, so that no matter if it's a good market or a down market, we have ways that we can make money. And one of the big ways, if you haven't figured out, when things really get bad, If they were to get really bad, we would go into more of the wholesaling, working with investors who are buying homes really cheap and are renting them because people can't afford to buy. Um, but they're, cash buyers, and then they're leasing them out. Now, in some markets, there's a lot of institutional buyers who are buying these properties, and they're doing it because they know real estate for the long run will always be one of the best investments that you can hang on to. So they're just buying up a bunch of properties from $250,000 to $500,000, and they're renting them out for anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500. And they're just making money on the hold side. And so that would be another way to think about, if you haven't already, to get yourself certified through our program. You've heard about all the different programs out there. And I don't know why it escapes me. So Colleen, I'm gonna have you either type it in or tell me. But express offers. Okay, fine. I figured it out. My mind works kicked in. So with express offers, if you haven't been express offer certified, that would be something. These are just all other ideas that are coming to my mind now. Again, things that if you haven't done, get that done so that you're knowledgeable and you're ready to go. So when those opportunities present themselves much more in the future than now, you'll be ready. Another one I talked to Amy, my daughter, about was the relocation services, that you can get relocation certified and then work with not only EXP, but then also work with big companies and colleges and universities who are bringing in professors and educators or administrators, or companies that are bringing in typically mid-level and above management, that are bringing them in, paying for their moving expenses, paying for them to rent someplace temporarily where they're going to be buying a place, helping them with closing costs. I mean, they do a lot. So if you can get in on some of these relocation things, that would be another way to add to the other possibilities to do more deals. Remember, more transactions means more money, and more transactions means getting to icon. More transactions starts with you getting to be a capping agent. The next thing you want to do is work towards becoming icon. And then once you figure that out and you can build a rev share and build a local team, then life gets a whole lot better for you as a real estate professional. A, because you're not doing all the work locally, and B, because now you're creating a rev share from people, not just locally or nationally, but soon internationally as you grow your team. So up or down markets in different countries, you're going to still be able to benefit. For instance, in Panama, it's already a buyer's market where there's a lot more inventory than there is buyers. So the buyers can kind of pick and choose who and they're going to work with, what deals they're going to put together, et cetera. But if you're on the buying side and you kind of understand what's going on, that's going to be a great market to still make money in. All right, let's then go on to build up rev share to add to your bottom line. So the cool thing about what we have is an opportunity to grow a team locally, and we also have the ability to grow a team nationally and internationally. Now, different ways that we describe teams are different for different people. So I'm going to just make that real clear for a moment. So when we talk about the Legends International team, a lot of people in real estate think that everyone is kind of commission splitting and sharing within transactions. Now that sometimes does happen, but it's typically going to be where everyone is connected through what we call the revenue sharing plan. So, and technically, they're part of our, what I like to call the global group. So Legends International team is a great name. It is a team. It is like-minded people, but it's more of a group. And when I say group, it's because then we're all like-minded in a global group together where we participate in revenue share together. When we say team in the real estate world, when we say someone's on my team, then that really starts to think towards that when you do a transaction, that the team leader is going to get 20 to 30 to 40%, 50%, and then the agent doing the work is going to get 70, 60, maybe even as little as 30%. Okay. So that's more of a team. If you're saying, hey, I'm building a team, then that's the way that most people in real estate, when you're talking to them, are going to be thinking about what it is that we do. So when we say joining the Legends International team, they might be like, oh, I don't want to give away my commission. I want to be a solo agent. I want to be able to earn all the money. And the answer is they can. They're just going to be someone who's knowledgeable enough who can be a solo agent, run on their own, and be part of the Legends International team, which will only enhance the kind of money that they can make, but they're not actually commission splitting like a traditional team. All right. So even though we would never change the name because we love what LIT stands for, because we're on fire, that we're international, that we're legendary, the fact is I still have to make it clear to people what that team means, because people think in traditional ways of real estate when they hear the word team. All right. So with that, we're all part of a global group. And that could be a local group, it could be an international or a global group, which is literally going to give you the ability to make this revenue share. So you probably already skipped ahead and seen that our goal to take advantage of the start of building up a nice rev share income is you need to get 5 agents. We talk about your 5 agent tribe, and make sure they stay alive, which means that we don't want them to be one of the casualties over the next year or two that are leaving the industry. How do we do that? Well, we make them money. We support them. We train them. We encourage them. We motivate them, right? So when we bring in an agent, we want to make sure we're there to love on them and support them and train them and teach them, right? So pick wisely on who these 5 are going to be, because we don't want to be trying to baby feed and coddle brand new agents. You know, you can help those people, but they're not part of your quote unquote tribe. Your 5 person or agent tribe should be kind of like your board of directors. These are the really sharp people that you will take advice from, you'll give advice, you'll share ideas, you'll brainstorm together. These are like-minded, strong people that you want to be in business with. That should be your tribe. That should be your top 5. Why? Because those people are the people who are going to be the movers and shakers. They're the people who are going to learn and grow. They're the people who are going to network and figure out ways to stay alive. So if you have 5 strong people and they go with their mission to go help others to do the same with your help, not alone, but those people go out and find their 5. But if they don't do what you did and they only attract 2, it's still better than none, right? 1 is better than 0. But the idea is that people we found will do about half of what you do. So do a lot, you know, so just know that people are not going to do everything that you do, but they'll probably do about half. So let's just be really conservative and say, what if they only do 2, right? And if those 2 get 2, and that goes on and on, that will go on through 7 levels in our compensation plan. We're not going to get into all the details of that on this page, but we'll break it down a little more on the next one. So those 5, you're going to get an override on. The next 10, which is those 5 get 2, that would be 10, you're going to get a bigger override on. Believe it or not, you get paid more on the second level or tier than you do on the people you bring in, which is really cool, because if you bring in 5 strong people and they bring in strong people, you're going to get paid on 2 levels of strong people. Now, eventually, at some point, you don't really have as much of a connection with those people as it continues to perpetuate and your organization builds. But, you know, for the most part, if you're a really good leader, you're going to reach down into depth of 2, 3, 4, 5 levels and beyond, and find the good people to know that you're there to support them, help them, brainstorm, you know, mentor them, etc. And so as those 2 get 2, that becomes 20 on your 3rd level or your 3rd tier. And in, say, a year, if we were to do that over a year's period, you take a year. So that's 1 every other month with a month off, all right, attracting your strong agents that you're looking for. And then they do the same in a year's period. 5 and 10 and 20, if you add those up, is 35. And 35 agents on average, what we found, and you'll see this on the next page, is going to earn you about $1,000 per agent per year. So the cool thing about that $1,000, first of all, it's easy math. And then second of all, you can start to brainstorm, you can start to strategize and put a business plan together that says, hey, what's this going to look like for retirement? Where do I need to be? How much do I want to be making? And so those 35 agents at $1,000 per year is about $2,900 a month. Now, I don't know about you, but most people are like, oh, well, an extra 3,500. Well, okay, look, if you're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and you're only going to get an extra $35,000, that's like less than around 10%. Okay, it might not be that big a deal. But if you're making 60,000 and you're now making another 35, that's a third of your income. Or I mean, that could well, that's half your income, excuse me. But then that could have your income grow by 50%. All right. If you're making 60,000 or 70,000 a year, right? So for the people that are on average, just so you know, for those of you that don't know, the average person in America, to be in the top 10% of income earners, top 10%, all you need to do is make over $60,000 a year or $5,000 a month, and you're in the top 10%. Now it gets really small quick, like there's less and less people making a whole lot more money at the top. I get that. But the point is that the average person is going to be making less than $60,000 a year. If you take that number, right, that's 90% is less than 60,000. So that's less than 5,000 a month. So for a lot of people who started in real estate, they're doing it part-time with the idea that they want to be full-time, and that's great. And that would be another indicator that if you're part-time and you're doing well, you may not want to try and go quit and be full-time in real estate until you really know you got it going on. So that's another and that will be the way that a lot of people will stay, because it's about 70% of the people are part-time anyways. So it may not just be that big a deal. That's why a lot of people are going to stay. But the people who are full-time and then it hasn't been going so well and they got to do something else part-time that's more consistent, those are the people that we're going to lose, that 20 to 30% over the next year or two. So with this type of extra money, if that was to be added on top of their deals that they're doing and their transactions they're doing, even if it was half of that, for a lot of people, that's going to mean the difference between what they want to do and what they're, what they would really love to do. So think about those numbers for just a second, because even if it was, I'm going to just use round it down to $30,000 a year. Another thing I want to share with you guys is how people don't really see what their time is worth, because $30,000 a year is $15 an hour. Now, if it's part-time and you're not having to work for it, is it really $15 an hour, or is it just $30,000 a year that you're making? Because if you're not working for it, you can't really break it down to an hourly wage. But if you are working to do this part-time, like a job at, a grocery store or a restaurant, and you're making an extra $30,000 a year part-time, then that's $15 an hour. And so if you're making, say, $25 an hour, doing whatever you're doing, that's $50,000 a year. Now, how do I figure that out? You just simply take what it is that you're making per year, and you make it a K. Like you round it down by 1,000. So if it's 35,000, you just make it 35K or 30, and then you would divide that in half, and then you just convert that to an hourly, and it works out pretty good with how many hours you put in, taking some weeks off for vacation. It's pretty amazing, kind of cool math. It's really, really good. So another example, if you're making $100,000 a year, what is your time worth? Well, you're making, even though it's a salary, but the time you're working and that you're putting in, 40, 50 hours a week is what we kind of average it on, working 50 weeks a year, because you're going to take a couple of weeks off here and there, is $50 an hour. Okay. So let's now take a look at what that means for rev share. So on rev share, the cool part about it is these people on your first level that you attract, whether it's one person or 5 or 10 or 40. Eventually you want to get to 40. That's your goal. The fact of the matter is that you're not going to make any more. It's 3.5% or $2,800 per year for everyone who caps. So whether you have one or you have 100, it's still going to be 20. But again, that's 2,800, not 1,000 like we showed you earlier. That would be for capping agents. Well, if people have cap, that's still $1,400 per agent per year. And that's just your first level. Now, to qualify for levels 1 and 2, you need to have 5+ active agents, or what we call frontline qualified agents. That's why that's a first really good goal, is to get to the 5, so you're qualified through 2 levels. But here's the thing that people don't understand. If you were to start 1 or 2 people, and they start one who starts one who gets a ton of people, you still get paid expansion shares all the way through 7 levels, even if you don't have your front line in place. See, the front line in place gives you the exponential shares, which is an add-on. So everyone gets expansion. And if you're qualified, you also get additional money through exponential shares. And so that way, now look at the second level. Remember I told you it was more? It's $3,200 per agent per year. All right, that's 3 times more than the example we used. And here we're at 800, so that's under 1,000, but here we're at 1,200, which is over. Here we're at 4,000 on the 7th level at 5%. So we're on average, just trying to be super conservative, we did 1,000 because the math is easier too. So if your goal is to make an extra $100,000 passively per year, you need 100 active agents in your organization. All right. And any configuration of frontline, second level, third level, down to 7 levels. We're just on average figuring about $1,000 per agent per year. Now, if we cut that in half to get even more conservative, well, the math still works really well when it comes to passive residual income. Maybe later on, we'll talk about, what does that mean? Why is it worth it? Well, because if you were to compare that with any other investment vehicle, like an annuity or money you're putting in the stock market, and what that would make you as a return on investment, it's like having a whole lot of money in the bank or in the market working for you. And we'll talk about those numbers maybe in another compensation type training. So that's it. My time is done, but I just wanted to say thank you guys. I want you to really understand where we're at with this, that there's a lot of different ways to make money than just buying and selling residential real estate. And there's a great amount of money that you can earn through going out there. And as you're building your real estate business with traditional ways of building with buyers and helping sellers sell, you're going to want to attract agents to not only EXP, but to the Legends International team, so that we can train them, teach them, and that way, in building that organization, will eventually be something that your children's children will benefit from. Because remember, this business is a business that keeps paying you, even if something should happen to you. Your significant other, your children could still benefit from that. And all they would need to do is get their license within 1 year, or partner with someone who has a license, and that money could continue to flow, which is pretty cool. Why is that important? Because we can't pay these overrides to someone who's not a licensed agent. That's kind of like a referral fee. So they got to be licensed, but they give them a year for someone to go get their license, or to partner up with someone who has a license to continue to see that money continue to flow if something was to happen to you. So that feels really good to me, knowing that my daughter has her license, and my wife could go get her license, and a lot of other people they could partner with to make sure that the money that we're making through EXP, which is a really nice rev share check that comes every month now, can continue to grow. And if I can do it, I'll just leave you with that. With this, you can do it too. We're here to help. All right, guys, that's our time. Thank you for yours.